Hello Internet, Bardic Monk here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Pendragon after a while away from it. What is Pendragon? Pendragon is a game where you're essentially playing D&D fighters in the time of King Arthur. And you don't have to play just battle-hungry knights or anything like that, but you'll be playing knights who currently run some lands within the lands of King Uther or King Arthur. What you need to know about Pendragon: you are going to be playing knights in Salisbury by default, and in Salisbury, using this map that I have made out of chipboard and just was it cardstock paper that I printed it out on. I cut it all together, and this prop has probably been the most useful thing I've ever made because my players constantly use this. And what you'll be doing as a knight, you'll be seeing which one of these manors you'll be running for uh, Count Roderick or Earl Roderick, depending on which title you end up using, because different publications change his title sometimes. Um, but he runs everything out of Sarum. You're kind of running all the places around Sarum, and like from this tree line out is a different land. So Salisbury is pretty much everything within this map here. You'll be playing as these knights in these towns or these settlements, and what you're going to be doing is playing in knightly adventures and playing a generational game, which means that you'll be rolling a character, yes, you'll be playing a character, yes, but you're more playing their lineage. So you'll start with a character, but there is a lot that goes on into this game, and you're playing yearly, meaning that after 15, theoretically 15 sessions, you'll be 15 years older. So, with that in mind, you end up having to have children. You end up having to give up your, I guess, the main character status for your character when they get too old or when they die, and you'll give them to the next character. Now, if you end up dying before you can sire any children, it's going to go to the next person in line. So, chances are, if you're playing by default, you'll be going to the next oldest man or boy the in the line. And depending on how you run the game, that could also be changed. Like my current Pendragon campaign, women are knights, and we just kind of roll fast and loose with that. I had a few things in the timeline that were changed, so it's a new concept. It's not an established, like, women were always knights. They're currently fighting to become knights. So one of my players is one of those women in the second generation of women knights, and it's been very fun to play. It's very fun to add that to the story, and I just think it makes for an interesting, like, fantasy setting in, the world of Pendragon. You'll be running these lands. You'll be doing you're not exactly getting quests per se. You will be getting quests, but mostly, if we had to break down what your characters are going to be doing, they're going to go to feasts. They're going to be talking to the king or the earl or anybody who's above them, getting their job essentially that they're going to be doing for the year, and then on their off time they can do their own quests or just party as much as they want. You're mostly like showing up for battle, showing up to just support your king or support your earl, support your count, whoever, and you're kind of just running your your lineage and what they do throughout the story of King Arthur, who's playing in the background, and the players can always just shift. You can always just shift to focusing on what Arthur's doing, or you can just have him in the background doing something, and you guys are just trying to survive in that same time. Your character in this game is going to be driven by traits, by their passions, and they will be using their skills in their adventures. I'll go into a full breakdown on this, but the thing that makes this game so unique to me are the passions, which you can tap into to get bonuses to certain skill rolls that you're making. And also, they will drive certain things. Like if you hate a certain people so much, look, just I'm gonna cut you off there. No, not like that. Not modern. We're talking about the Saxons, the Picts, people who don't exist anymore, the Irish. Okay, maybe they exist. but not the Druidic Irish or anybody like that. You just, if you hate these people enough, you're gonna end up wanting to fight them instead of talk to them. And your passions, if they're high enough, you might just automatically start fighting. You have all these skills that knights and noble people do, as well as traits. Traits are also the very unique thing here. The traits kind of tell you what your character does. Whenever you make a decision to do something, you will checkmark that trait. Okay, now what else do you need to know about Pendragon before you actually start? Well, if you are running the game, I would recommend either getting the core rulebook, but more than likely I would recommend the starter set because it has pretty much everything that you need to get started, and it has 3 years worth of adventures in this box by itself. If you've never seen or played this game before, it also has something to play solo, and the adventure at the beginning is extremely beginner friendly. If you want to start getting into the game without any of this, if you can just not homebrew, but if you can think about what it is to be a knight, what you think about knights in general, and you just want to play a game where you're just kind of rolling dice and seeing what happens, I would recommend playing kind of like my 7-minute intro video on how to get started as a solo RPG player for Pendragon. And I would thoroughly recommend just watching that through real quick. It's 7-minute video again, and it just gets you started into playing solo Pendragon as quickly as possible. This game is here. This right here is the full timeline of Pendragon, and it's a whole lot of numbers, but really, if we need to break it down completely, all you're looking at are 8 eras of the game. So you'll be playing through the King Uther period all the way to the Twilight period, or if you are just picking up the 6th edition and kind of just rolling with the starter adventure and then continuing from there, you're going from the Boy King period and playing onward from there. If you played everything that's available in this game, you would be playing those 8 periods, which translate to 87 years, in-game years. And if when you're playing the game, there's a lot of people who mention playing this in like seasonal chunks. So 1 year is going to be spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So if you took all 4 of those parts and then did the multiplication that you're going through all 4 of those every single year, which you won't, but if you did do the math for that, your total would be 348 parts that you have to play through. It's a very big number if you actually end up doing all of it, which chances are you won't. There are a lot of years that you'll just breeze through because you are focusing on a specific part of Pendragon. In the game, you'll play by rolling against the traits versus your skills versus your passions, and to roll against any of those, you're rolling a d20. And this game uses the Price is Right rules, where you're trying to get the highest without going over. So even though you're trying to roll low, lower than a number, 1 is the worst success that you could get, and if you had a skill of 10, 10 is the best success that you could get. Specifically because of, if we're coming from D&D, I'm just going to assume you know what Dungeons and Dragons is. If you're rolling a d20 on attack for Dungeons and Dragons, if you end up getting a 20, which, oh, there. If you end, I can't believe that worked. If you end up getting a 20, that's going to be a critical hit. But if you want to get a critical hit in Pendragon, you need to roll your skills. So 20 is going to be a failure. You don't want to do that. Again, you're trying to roll below. So if you only had a skill of 4 in Pendragon, 4 is not a great number to succeed with, but if that's the number that you're rolling against, it's actually the crit. And if you boost this skill with your passions, as I said before, it could happen. So you get like a +5 or +10, whatever. If you modify the number, the crit number that you're trying to roll against keeps moving with it. So if you're trying to roll against a 4, this is a crit, a 4. And if you roll passions and you get like supercharged by it, you get a +10 to your skill roll, you would get a crit on a 14. There's a little bit more than that for the actual resolutions. Again, you are rolling against other people. There's going to be contests. If you're trying to just look at a binary succeed or fail, you need to roll at or below a number. And if you're competing with people, You want to hit your number. You want to hit below your number but higher than the other person. And if the other person fails, you just want to succeed, and that's it. So there's that. And I also want to just highlight the video from Questing Beast, Ben, who ended up making a video about the perfect RPG like GM's book, which I ended up taking to heart, and I made just like a silly notebook that's pretty thick. It's very big, as you can see, um, and I've used this book for cataloging my adventures as well as just having a front-loaded. Oop, yeah, reset that. Give me 1 second. In the front of this book, we have just a real quick rules reference for myself. So, most of the rules for basically like having secret rules, rounding works like normal, success and failure, experience checks. All these rules are here, as well as the more complicated resolution system. Kind of has like what type of success do you have versus what kind of success or failure your opponent has, and then I also have in here my actual campaign notes, which are kind of split up into two halves. I have put all my notes for the adventure here, and then all my notes for the actual gameplay over here. I want to go over all this in another video, but I could recommend doing this. But all in all, you really just need any sort of notebook paper, even just the back of a printout. That'll be fine. There's a winter phase for this game wherein you're trying to see who survives the winter. Your characters will usually survive. Your specific characters, whoever your player knights are, your player characters, they will survive the year because you're kind of in control of how your character plays throughout the year. Barring you dying in battle, you're kind of just like defaulted to just surviving the winter. But your family members, your spouses, whoever, any NPC is kind of on the table of possibly dying during winter phase. So winter phase is all about aging up, possibly having a catch up scenario for anybody who missed the previous year. So yeah, aging, experience rolls, because you don't get experience points, you're just checking what you've used throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, you'll roll to see if any of these skills go up. Last but not least, I would like to recommend the Pendragon Campaign as run by Eric Vulgaris with Jim and Colin as his players. It They ran through the whole thing. They went from 485 all the way to 566, I believe. Yes, from 485 to 566. I don't think they did any of the early stuff from the Book of Uther. Uh, there was enough stuff without having to add those 5 years, so that's fine. But they ended up going through the whole thing, and if you want to watch what one table does in that, like in that sense, to get like a real sense of what it means to get into that game, I would thoroughly recommend getting into like watching that series. I'm surprised by how well everything went for me, honestly. I thought that this would be a white whale of a game. This is a game that I would never play with people. That's the reason why I even started this channel, was to play along with Man Alone. And I would like to continue that adventure. Again, I did start my first video with I have a New Year's resolution, and I wanted to do that, but it kind of fell by the wayside when other people wanted to play, and I didn't have that much time to actually dedicate to running the Pendragon game for other people and myself. So that's the reason why I haven't continued that adventure, but I would like to now that I've stopped, now that I've taken a break from my seat in the GM chair. So, thank you all for watching. Play Pendragon. I'll see you in the next video. As always, have a great day, have a great night, stay positive. Hello, dear viewer. Do you suffer from not knowing how Pendragon works? Have you tried tirelessly to read the rules but find your mind drifting off mid-sentence because rules are just not that interesting?
What's this paragraph about?
Do you have players but no one wants to run the game? Are you stepping up to the plate? Stay tuned for a quick rundown on how I ran my first 5 years of Pendragon, and then you can too!